Do 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 do. Yeah, nothing like a nice bottle of German Machen auf Deutschland, made in Germany. Gerolsteiner mineral water. There we go. I don't actually discuss religion, so I don't. I'm only interested in metaphysics because religion is secularized metaphysics, which basically means dumbed down metaphysics. Every religion, however, has its axis mundi, yeah, or its axle pin. It's the point upon which everything else kind of turns. Kind of like the axle pin of Christianity would be Jesus and his teachings, right? That would be the axle pin of Christianity, right? Of course it would. The axle pin of all of Buddhism is the metaphysics of liberation. Now, if you're going to tell me, on the one hand, that liberation is the ultimate goal, or in the ancient Pali, I translate ancient Pali now, by the way, for a little over 20 years, you're going to tell me the ultimate goal is liberation, which is true, or vimutta in ancient Pali. But on the other hand, you're going to tell me that nothing is liberated, and by nothing, I don't mean no thing, which implies phenomena, because liberation of a phenomena, like this rock or anything else, is completely ridiculous. There's no premise in which, either in doctrine, common sense, or logic, one would ever assume that the psychophysical, or in the ancient Pali, nama-rupa, i.e. rupa, vedana, sana, sankara, and vijnana, are liberated. Yeah, liberation implies liberation of one thing from another. And of course, it's all the identification phenomenology based in agnosis, and I don't mean existential agnosis, but primordial agnosis. There's always two modalities of metaphysical principles. You can't tell me that there's liberation on one hand, and on the other hand, not that with a capital T, which is liberated. However, this Mobius strip brain fart does exist in like 95% of Buddhism. And let me tell you how they work it. And there's some religions, other religions that actually do this too. They'll actually base everything they believe in commentary. And commentary is the point of reference rather than doctrine. However, if you ask them directly which is the most important source, they will always say, well, doctrine is most important than commentary. Well, it's like, well, why are you always referring to commentary? Latter-day sectarian commentary. And that's, of course, where you catch them. The easiest way to debate inferior minds is to catch them in a self-revealing paradox. And I'm going to show you the Buddhist paradox. And by the way, you may not know me, you're new to the channel, whatever, because this is about anatta or anatman. Both are the same term. One is Pali, one is Sanskrit. I am the world's foremost absolute expert on this. I could say without any basis of contention that there's nobody on this earth that knows more about that term than I do. And all of Buddhism, 98% of it anyway, is based on the notion of, they call it selflessness or no soul. But there's no such thing as this in doctrine. The term for no soul is a compound called natata, which means that there is no soul. And that, of course, is heresy. Now, to say is or isn't, which is in Pali nati or ati versus nati, there is or there isn't, these are, of course, are antinomies. They're talking about mental word games of sophistry. But, of course, there is liberation. The only thing that's actually called permanent or nitya is the atan. The only thing that's called the light or the dipa is the atan, i.e. the atman. By the way, the same word in ancient Pali is the same word as it is in Sanskrit, is the same word as it is in ancient Egyptian. Aten, the solar entity, i.e. the soul. Anyway, the term anatta is only used in a pejorative fashion to refer to 22 things that are not the soul. This is not the soul, that's not the soul. Rupa anatta, Veda anatta, Sana anatta, Sankara anatta, Vijnana anatta, Nama rupa anattati. And also too, in passage Samyutta Nikaya 3.196, it states the doctrine of the evil, or the teachings. What is evil? What is the incarnate of evil? And evil itself is matter, or we say in Greek, hyle. It says the five khandhas are evil. However, this is where you can completely destroy a Buddhist and get them to enjoin a self-negation paradox. In other words, to contradict themselves. Because what they do is that these passages are so numerous and so undeniable since basically about that many people in the world translate ancient Pali, like there's myself and not too many others, what they do is they translate these, especially those yellow-robed monks you see in Ceylon, Burma, Laos, Thailand. All those guys wearing saffron robes, those are Theravadins. The original name for the Theravadins is Sarvastivadins, which literally means this is all there is ism, i.e. atomism, i.e. materialism. What they will tell you is that these passages merely refer to the reflexive self, like yourself, myself, himself. It's talking about like self-reliance, kind of like a self-help guru. It says, well, this passage doesn't say that the soul is the light, or the soul is the, because there's countless thousands of such passages in doctrine. The soul is the refuge, the soul is the light, the soul is, all these higher appellations. What they say is, and they translate it this way, is that you yourself are the light. You yourself are the refuge. It's like, oh, I see then. This is how you destroy them. Because the religion is either self-consistent insofar as the commentarialists and the nonsense that people believe in, and this is why I never have anything to do with religions. Never! Because religion is secularized metaphysics. It's kind of like dumbed down metaphysics. This is what religion is, by the way, versus metaphysics. You know, a guy's driving his car, right? You ever seen the little Fisher-Price things that they make for kids that sit in the passenger seat? It's got a little plastic wheel on it and a little fake horn, and the kids can imitate driving. They're watching daddy or mommy drive, and they turn the little plastic wheel, and they pretend they're driving too, and they honk the horn. That's what religion is. Metaphysics is actually driving the car. That's a very crude analogy. To destroy them on this, and by destroy, I mean you get them to face the fact that everything that they believe and are teaching others to believe in is hogwash, is nonsense, it's self-destroying, kind of like matter and antimatter. It's self-destroying, paradoxical nonsense. It's like, oh, so you translate all these passages as yourself, myself, like you yourself are the refuge. You yourself are that which to be relied on. You are the light. You yourself are the light. That's how all these countless Theravadins and most Mahayanas, including the Tibetans, translate it. You yourself are the light. It's like, oh, I see. So that's what you translate. Yes. You yourself are the refuge. Well, yourself, by any definition, in any dictionary, refers to the reflexive self, i.e. the psychophysical self of flesh and blood and piss and bones. Yeah, the psychophysical, i.e. nama-rupa, i.e. the five constituents, rupa, vedana, sana, sankara, vijnana, all of which are called a plane, a boil, an affliction, but they're also called undeniably maradama, literally the vessel or premise of evil, that which is evil. In other words, it's the scripture. It's not, Dhamma doesn't mean scripture, but Dhamma is kind of like the word logos in ancient Greek. You could translate it 100 different ways. It's literally the premise or doctrine of evil. So you basically just said that fundamentally Buddhism is so self-contradictory that on the one hand it teaches you that the psychophysical is evil, is pain and suffering, which it is. That's correct. But on the other hand, when the highest appellations in doctrine are present, like Atta Dipa Viharati, dwell with the soul as your light, or Atta Ka Saranam Gatika, go with the soul as your refuge, to go to the soul as a refuge, or Atta Vasarati, the soul is charioteer. The ancient Indian analogy for the soul is the 5 horses, or the 5 senses. The body is the chariot, and the charioteer is the horses. If you were like a sensualist or a fool, then you didn't have control of their horses. You were not in control. If you were, then you had control. So, on the one hand, we have the correct doctrinal passages that say that the psychophysical is evil, pain, suffering, on and on, all the bad stuff, which is true. But on the other hand, you say that that you yourself, in incorrect translation, are the refuge, are the light. So you're saying the same thing that's the refuge is also the same thing that is pain, suffering, and evil. So literally, this is not my opinion. This is how these yellow-robed Theravadins, all those saffron-robed guys in Southeast Asia, Ceylon, Laos, Burma, all of those people, and I know these people, and I've debated them before and destroyed every one of them, because I know way more than they do. They say in their own Pali translations that the five khandhas are evil, blah 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 blah. But it is also the five khandhas. The psychophysical is the refuge, the light, that which you should depend. That's self-annihilation, matter, antimatter stuff. It can't work that way. If those passages were correct, that means that the entire system fundamentally implodes on itself. And of course, most religions do implode on themselves, but the actual original doctrine itself is not self-contradictory. However, the way they get around that Samyutta Nikaya 3.196 passage where it talks about the five khandhas or the psychophysical being the doctrine of evil, what they do is they translate, like Bhikkhu Bodhi did, they translate Mara Dhamma as subject to Mara. In other words, it is subject to evil. They also, too, literally teach that there's such thing as Vishuddha, or clean, or pure psychophysicality. But that's not in doctrine. That's in commentary. That's in Abhidhamma Theravada commentary, which came like 600, actually came 700 years later. Yeah, it's not in doctrine at all. They literally translate the word Dhamma as subject to, like Bhikkhu Bodhi did. Very, very cute. He knows what the Pali says. It says right there to the five khandhas, or the psychophysical, is the Dhamma of Mara. Mara Dhamma is what it says in the Pali. But he translated it as subject to Mara. So he literally translated the suffixual Dhamma as subject to, which nobody ever would. And it's completely impossible, completely contradictory, 100% completely impossible. There are 1,000 things like that. Also, too, there's a 17 proprietary list on the Chitta. Nowhere in doctrine, like I said, there's nobody on this earth, literally, I mean this literally, not egotistically, there's nobody on this earth that knows more about the term anatta and its occurrence and how it's used than I am. It is a perfect neti via negativa apophatic methodology, for engaging in theurgy, or retroductive assimilation, by disubjectification, because this monistic metaphysics of original Buddhism, which of course the term Buddhism didn't come until thousands and thousands of years later. Don't ever call me a Buddhist, because it's really an insult. I'm a hardcore monistic metaphysician in the ilk of the Platonists and Neoplatonists, but Buddhism is original Buddhism. That term Buddhism didn't even come until Cal was. The only time actually Gautama referred to his teachings was Samyutta Nikaya 5.4. He called it his teachings. He said, "Lord, what are your teachings to be called?" And he said they were called Brahmayana, the path to the absolute. Path to the absolute. Don't confuse Brahman, this God ideology, with the absolute. It refers to the agathon. Brahman, used in that Pali passage, refers to the agathon, or the absolute, an insentient absolute. But there are a million ways to completely catch these people and turn them in on themselves and show very, very quickly how self-contradictory they are. And they all do this. So the five khandhas are evil and of pain and suffering, but over here they're the refuge and the light. That doesn't jive. That's matter and antimatter. That's inherently contradictory. It can't even work that way. Many religions are inherently contradictory, which is fine. It's like, well, maybe just Buddhism is inherently contradictory. Because I've been translating Pali now for over 20 years. The doctrine itself is not contradictory at all. And by the way, so-called Buddhism, or doctrine of Buddhism, was not an original teaching at all. It was nothing other than rehashed Upanishadic Advaita Vedanta. That's all it was. Rehashed. It was a Sramanic movement of Advaita Vedanta, even in the year 2500 BCE, at the time of the Sakya clan, of which Gautama was a member thereof. The Scythians, by the way, that's what Gautama was. He was not Indian. He was a Scythian. Sakya clan. Sakya is the Pali word for Scythian. If you don't know what a Scythian is, look up the word Scythian. It was rehashed Advaita Vedanta because the teachings, Sanatana Dharma, had already been completely corrupted, completely bastardized, completely ritualized, as it is today. You see all these crazy gurus teaching all this nonsense. Give me money, I'm going to teach you magical stuff. It's all bunk. The same thing was going on 2,500 years ago is going on now. Exact same thing, slightly different. Now they take PayPal and credit card for payment instead of gold and silver. It's the exact same thing. Give me this, give me that, and I'm going to teach you the true teachings. Sure you are, you money-grubbing neophyte. But, yeah, the word Anata and Atman is not in denial of the soul at all. That's a via negativa apophatic methodology for disobjectification from phenomena. This is not the soul, that is not the soul. By objective denial, are you listening closely? By objective denial, one engages in subjective synthesis. If this is the Atman, right here, the purest of the pure, bliss and harmony, which is right here, and the soul, the consciousness, vis-a-vis the Vijnana, the manifest Vijnana, of course, is just a reflection of the Chitta. It's consubstantial Chitta, by the way. An identification with all these things that are not the self, you aggregate around yourself all this crap, which are perpetually in flux and change. By disobjectification, one engages in subjective synthesis or self-proximity to that which you truly are. As the ancient Sanskrit term goes, tattvamasi. This is no different than the teachings. Original Buddhism is 100% no different than the teachings of Advaita Vedanta. It's founded by Sri Sankaracharya and Upadesa Sahasri and the Vivachodamuni. Absolutely no different at all. It's non-dual monism. It's an identification phenomenology whose methodology is retroduction, i.e. apophaticism. Sati, i.e. smriti, is recollection, but not recollection like, what did I eat for breakfast yesterday? It's recollection of the antecedent self, which is prior to the psychophysical or the corporeal. And there you learned more about Buddhism than you would ever get by reading 100 books. Thank you very much. It really helps when you find someone that's been translating the original ancient Pali for a couple decades. Yeah. You know how much money that makes me knowing how to translate an ancient dead language? About that much. I don't care about money, but I need a real vacation. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you like these videos. If you do, click the link below where you can tell me how much you hate this video. But if you tell me how much you hate it, you better have some good valid reasons. And those valid reasons won't be doctrinal because you won't be able to do it that way. It'll be impossible. Thanks.